outside at some point. Okay. So, is this normal?
I can reduce
It's a reverb or echo or Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna. All right. I can talk loud too.
Yeah, anything will.
Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Bhaskita Deshitarane. So all of us by original nature are spiritual. Spiritual means everything you are now, or your identification of yourself as an existing person, minus the temporary stuff like this material body, and even the mind that goes along with it, that that you identify yourself as this material body or product of the material world, that is absent on the spiritual platform. So we have, let's say, a bit of a problem or difficulty in this material world thinking that we're actually something that we're not, or we become confused to try to understand who we really are. And because we're actually eternal, there's 3 plus 1, 4 main problems that really need to get solved for everyone, and especially in the human form of life. The fourth one I should say first, but I'm going to save it to the end, and you'll realize why when I tell you. First problem is disease, getting sick. In your original spiritual identity, there's no sickness, there's no illness. And illness is usually accompanied with old age. The body gets old. You see, the body goes through stages, and just like a flower that blossoms in its full maturity to this most beautiful stage, so in the lifespan between being born and ultimately the body being unable to work anymore because of disease, infirmity, weakness, invalidity, and whatever, death, the period of full maturation in terms of beauty, knowledge, strength, influence is usually something between the age of 17, 18 up till about 35, 40. And we see that people who have no information of their real identity spiritually, they put more emphasis on the external appearance of the body in the youthful, quote-unquote, mature stage. Big business is all based around this misconception of life. Entertainment, beauty, clothing, fashion, cosmetics, etc., etc., etc. There's actually, in cultures, I'll say in previous times, predominantly, when there was more understanding across the boards of society of what is more valuable, spiritual knowledge and spiritual lifestyle, more respect and more acknowledgement and awareness of the maturity of wise and wisdom of people who have gone through their entire life living it for a spiritual, pious, religious, compassionate purpose, that they're actually the ones who have the most, let's say, basis to be attracted to. We should be attracted to such persons. And we see in the case of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, he came here as the humble servant of his spiritual master. This is how the Supreme Lord, this is how the supreme absolute truth, personally likes to distribute the knowledge of spirituality and truth through his authorized representatives, or those who are unalloyed devotees. Unalloyed means just that, no alloy. We want to get the pure jewel, or the pure metal, pure gold, pure silver with no contamination in it. So, unalloyed devotional service, or unalloyed bhakti, unalloyed pure spiritual consciousness, is simply defined as simply wanting to please God, the original personality, of whom I am a emanation, separated part and parcel. We are in a very glorious category of servant, or das, or dasi, or servants of the original personality. And that service is our natural position, just like my hand here is making gestures. It's not independently doing it. Like a comedy show, like the hand is, the hand is obeying me, what I want it to do, how to, in conjunction with my overall plan of what I want to say, and when I want to say it, and how I want to express it. So, in that way, the hand is happy. But it's not slavery, it's actually the most congenial form of intimacy and the revelation of our spontaneous nature, individually expressed in the most beautiful and fullest way. So that discovery of our original self is required in this human form of life, and by doing so, you conquer all the problems. So we mentioned disease, old age, and ultimately death. But for those who have not completed satisfactorily or sufficiently the course of spiritual enlightenment, then they take another birth, rebirth, reincarnation. People say, do you believe in reincarnation? And I'll answer the question by asking them a question. Do you believe in getting left back in school? Well, and if they're a little bit stumped on that, then I'll say, well, getting left back in school is a reality, but it's undesirable. So, especially in this human form of life, after having come to the proper conclusion of what this life is meant for, and doing those things required to complete the mission of this human form of life, then there's absolutely no need to repeat the process of repeated birth, old age, disease, and death. Because these things are unwanted, they're very problematic, painful, undesirable, etc. So, just like a father whose sons and daughters might run away from home and get into all kinds of trouble, the parents are very concerned for them to come back for their safety, even more than the wayward children who were, at least at the present time, in their waywardness, kind of crazy. So, just as the father and mother, the parents, they'll send out people to search, or they'll do whatever they possibly can to rescue their family members. So Krishna, from his side, he is creating a system in a particular time that we live in, just like here now it's coming into the summer season, and what was appropriate 3 months ago to wear a winter jacket and double pairs of wool socks, etc., is not appropriate. But there's a particular type of way that you should go about keeping yourself healthy in the summertime. So that's a kind of easy example. So the universe that we are present in has various spiritual seasons. Just like there are climatic seasons that we're readily experiencing here on this planet. So, the true virtue of the living entity, or the possibility for fullest expression of goodness and virtue in the first of the four seasons, Satya Yuga, started at 100%, and as the time and age progressed, it went down to 75%. And the third age, starting at 75%, going to 50%, means 50% virtue, 50% non-virtue. And in the third age, it goes from 50% to 25%. And guess what, everybody? We're in the fourth age. This is the age called Kali Yuga. Just to give you an idea, lifespan is knocked down from, you could live 100,000 years in the Satya Yuga. What is the math from 100,000 to 10,000 to 1,000? Is that 100%? Anyway, math. There must be a term. To 10,000 to 1,000, and this lifespan, Kali Yuga, living to 100 years is or should be standard. But due to so many reasons, the lifespan is decreasing. So virtue, goodness, ability to ascertain the difference between truth and untruth, that which is desirable from that which is undesirable, that which is beneficial from that which is unbeneficial, that which is appropriate from that which is not appropriate, goes from 25% to 0. And we are kind of at the beginning of this worst of ages, Kali age. So we're faced with many extra stumbling blocks and disqualifications in this age as to previous ages. So certain concessions are given to help us to overcome all of these handicaps, and even more, to achieve something which even couldn't be achieved very easily in previous ages, which arguably could have all been considered much better times to be alive and present. But then again, keep in mind, because we're eternal, okay, here we are in the spring into the summer season, that doesn't mean that we didn't exist 6 months ago in the wintertime. So we were present in the previous ages, now we're in this age, and just like take off your winter coat, put it in storage, now wear your summer clothes. So the summer clothes, what's appropriate in this age, the Yuga Dharma, everything has been distilled and placed into the association with Krishna in sound vibration in the form of this Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So Krishna, his name, his form, philosophical discourses about him, those who represent him, his devotees, and especially in Kali Yuga, the Vedic literature's books about Krishna. So Bhagavad Gita means literally the word or song, the spoken word of Krishna. It's directly Krishna. By associating with the Bhagavad Gita, you're associating with Krishna. Krishna even says, towards the end of the Bhagavad Gita, and one who reads this Bhagavad Gita, he barely worships, actually worship, but not in terms of awe and reverence, worship and associate in loving adoration. He does so by his intelligence. Intelligence is ultimately, just like intelligence is to help the mind make the right decision. You have a little kid, no, don't touch that, don't go over there. So the mind can be like a child. It cannot be very helpful to us unless we have the intelligence helping to discern. So, intelligence purified in association with the original absolute truth through any of these means and methods, it helps us to fully clarify our original self-identity and remain very steadfast and strong in that conception, despite all onslaughts that come from this worst of all ages. The age of Kali Yuga is sometimes the way it is translated or expressed in English, the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the age of dissension, the age of deterioration. So, Krishna is transcendental to all ages and climatic changes. So, devotees who are fixed up in association with Krishna, they have nothing to do. They are not, just like if you're in a boat, the boat is on the ocean, but if the boat is good, you're out of the ocean. And you're fit to rescue people into the boat. There's even a saying about the knowledge of Krishna that's distributed by devotees. We all live a lifespan on board in such and such date, or someone who's passed away, their lifespan was from here to there, and now I'm born after you, I'm going to live longer, and then in due course of time, you'll be the older person, and there'll be younger people, on it goes. But one is ever present. Krishna is ever present, and his devotees are ever present in their literary and spoken contribution. So let that be a preamble to. We hand out this magazine called On Chanting Hare Krishna. To give you an idea how amazing this pamphlet is. This pamphlet has made many, many people become devotees. But there was one young man about 10 years ago, in 2014. He was walking down 14th Street, and he was about 19 or 20 years old at the time. He was a scholarship student to NYU from Hyderabad, India. Okay? But he was very much like westernized. He was wearing like a Jimi Hendrix Axis Bold as Love shirt. And he even looked like Jimi Hendrix. He kind of had like curly hair. And lo and behold, he was playing guitar in a hellacious heavy metal rock and roll band. But he's growing up in Hyderabad in Andhra Pradesh, which is a very strong, religiously inclined city, more or less, right? Gopal is from there. There he is, a living specimen. So one of our devotees, Gojuma Pran, he was with us at the Harinam at Union Square, 14th Street, and he handed this young man this pamphlet. He read the pamphlet, started coming to the Harinam. His first devotional activity was to sit on the mat. He couldn't keep his legs crossed, they were elongated, and he was playing, we had like these little kitty maracas, like mini fluorescent color Latin percussion maracas from the Guitar Center, half a block and a half down the street. And in due course of time, he started chanting japa, and I see him just kind of sitting there. He had like no musical ability, no sense of rhythm. So why don't you get up and distribute books? And then slowly but surely he got into it, and me and him had a kind of rasa, where it's like I would see really nice people, and I would like go check that person out. And it got to the point that just the two of us working together, we had like a 75 to 90% success rate. The persons I thought were good, he would approach, and they would have a favorable exchange. And it even got to the point where like I would just like my eyes would turn. I wouldn't have to like do like this and go over there, and he would just. So that person is Mahota Das Brahmachari. They now have their own center in Atlanta. This is like 10 years ago. So this came from the chanting of Hare Krishna, which is Krishna's program himself. Krishna, so wonderful is this program that he came as the Yuga avatar, the incarnation for this age. We have us in the other lotus room, Lord Chaitanya.
Yeah.
That's our McDougal Street altar painting over there. McDougal Street, Brooklyn, Ralph Avenue, Seatree. And he came himself to inaugurate and propagate this chanting of Hare Krishna. And he did it in such a way, it was so beautiful and attractive, because he's manifesting all the beauty of the spiritual world. There's a very nice verse which is written by one of the first disciplic followers after Lord Chaitanya's disappearance, Narottam Das Thakur, in the middle 1500s. And he said, Golo Kara Prema Dana Harinam Sankirtan, which means that the treasure of divine love from Goloka Vrindavan. Prabhupada would say, would chant Jai Radha Madhava. Has anybody heard before a devotional class the chanting of Jai Radha Madhava? Is everyone familiar with this? And Prabhupada, this is a very confidential bhajan. It's describing Krishna and his topmost devotee, Srimati Radharani, revealing the nature of their original amorous conjugal loving relationship and all other primary spontaneous loving relationships, friendship, parenthood, pure unalloyed servitude that exist in the topmost planet of Krishna himself. Krishna is everywhere. He's in your heart, he's in every atom, he's here in this room, he's the deity on the altar, he's even in the White Skimmerhorn Street subway station. He's everywhere. Vasudeva. Vas means place. Deva, he's the Lord of every place. But still he has his original place, and anything that's very beautiful and attractive that we see in this world or any other realm, it has its basis because it is stemming from, originates from, and is energized by, and is existing because of Krishna's original Goloka Vrindavan. Prabhupada was walking they took Prabhupada to the Brooklyn Botanical Gardens, which is a section of the Prospect Park. Anyone ever been there? Anybody ever been to Central Park? I know I like to take a walk in Central Park, and as soon as I get in there, can you imagine how much that real estate would cost on the Upper West Side and Upper East Side if they said, why do we have all of these dead trees and grass? It's useless, we just have buildings, just like one storefront square footage in that area would be like hundreds of millions, because they understand how important that is for every living entity, and for human beings, especially when living in this crazy city. So everything is there in the Maha Mantra. Now, and we'll hear, because we've been in this material world, not just in this lifetime, even this lifetime that we can remember is enough, all of the stuff that we've taken in and all of the stuff around us. So devotional service, it's perfection in and of itself, but it is in the stage of practice as we take it up. Sadhana Bhakti. But that sadhana bhakti, because it is under the guidance ultimately of Krishna and Krishna's unalloyed pure devotees, it is guaranteed that practice, if you maintain your sincerity throughout the natural course, will yield perfection. There's no doubt. Just like if you go to the accredited and authorized Institute of Education, if you do what you're supposed to do from your side, you will graduate with all honors, and even yourself become qualified to be a teacher or professor of the same knowledge that you learn sincerely. So Prabhupada himself, he said, I started this movement by chanting Hare Krishna. The first Harinam was in Washington Square Park, and they were a little bit kind of snooty-tooty over there, and even they kind of legally said you can't be doing this. So at that time, Tompkins Square Park was like the heart of the youth counterculture beatnik turning into hippie movement. And there was a fabulous, fabulous reception for Srila Prabhupada's chanting of Hare Krishna. And there were newspaper articles, and there was even the New York Times and many, many youth magazines and counterculture newspapers. Knowledge of what Prabhupada was doing, chanting Hare Krishna, spread all around. And ultimately, a record producer here in New York, just a couple of months from October, the record was made in December 1966. Adelphi Studios, 46th Street, between 8th Avenue and 7th Avenue, Times Square. Okay? And that record became so viral that even the Beatles, George Harrison, John Lennon, they got a copy of this album, and they were playing it continuously on one boating excursion they took in the Mediterranean Sea off the Greek islands. And they were so much attracted to this. And in that record album, Prabhupada recorded an explanation of the Maha Mantra, which is given here. And just to show you how powerful that Hare Krishna album was, Prabhupada was trying to get Bhagavad Gita as it is published. And even here, this edition, you see how big it is. This is with elaborate commentary, purport, many incredible features. To call Bhagavad Gita as it is, Krishna's book, everything should be there. Whereas most other Bhagavad Gitas to that time, Prabhupada even said himself in 1968, 400 English translations of the Bhagavad Gita. But none of them created devotees. So Prabhupada, he wanted his Bhagavad Gita to be published. And he didn't have his own book fund, BBT at the time. The movement hadn't grown big enough for him to be able to do that by his own means. So he was asking different people to help him. Allen Ginsberg, he became a friend. He was like a very famous poet and writer, and whatever he wrote, he had his publishers, and he trying to get his people to publish. And it's too religious. It's all So finally, the devotees were practically giving up on the idea. And one day, a letter from one of the biggest book publishers in the world, Macmillan, came in the mail because the record album was being advertised in stores, this and that. Sent $3 plus 50 cents for postage to 26 2nd Avenue, and we'll mail you a copy. So a letter came from Macmillan, the biggest publisher, and they had like a big skyscraper building like Grand Central area, 3rd Avenue, between 3rd and Lexington Avenue, like around 48th Street or something. So Prabhupada told the devotees, it was Brahmananda, that don't mail it, you go up there personally and hand deliver the record. And you tell them that you have a Bhagavad Gita that you want to publish. And the devotee Brahmanandi was incredible. Well, should I bring some of your other books that you published in the... No. Should I say something about you, the author? No. You just say you have a Bhagavad Gita you want to publish, and everything will be all right. And the devotee couldn't believe it. He said, okay. He put on like a suit and tie, took the subway up there, and so he found the person that he was giving the album to. It turned out to be an accountant, a clerk, just counting numbers. It had nothing to do with decision making. And he was just an ordinary guy, And Brahmananda was just so discouraged. He was like, okay, but the guy is like, oh, Hare Krishna, he's going through the motions of saying nice things. And all of a sudden, this like very big person from the company came in, and the clerk just rose to his attention, practically saluting, and he introduced Brahmananda. Mr. Bruce Sharp, this is Mr. James Wade, our senior editor of religious publications. Like one of the top guys in the whole company. And like Brahmananda, just like Prabhupada told me to do this, he told me to do this 3 times. And he's sitting there shaking his hand. Mr. Wade, I have a Bhagavad Gita I want to publish. Mr. Wade said, really? You have a Bhagavad Gita? But that's just what I want to complete our. I have an I Ching, I have a Torah, I have a Buddha, I need a Bhagavad. It's written by a Swami, yes. Right here in New York, yeah. Complete, yes. We'll publish it. Sight unseen. And then Brahmananda was just so late, and he flew back down to 26 Second Avenue and just burst into Prabhupada's room. It was like he couldn't believe it. And Prabhupada was just sitting there hearing it, just like he expected it to happen. So Lord Chaitanya himself says that this chanting of Hare Krishna awakens all varieties of devotional service. Everything that we want comes from, is maintained by, and is further expanded by Lord Chaitanya's personal movement of chanting Hare Krishna. My glasses got lost in the translation, so we'll do our best here. This transcendental vibration, by chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare, is the sublime method for reviving our Krishna consciousness. As living spiritual soul, we are all originally Krishna conscious entities, but due to our association with matter, from time immemorial, our consciousness is now polluted by material atmosphere. In this polluted concept of life, we are all trying to exploit the resources of material nature, but actually we are becoming more and more entangled in her complexities. So this is actually a shout out to all these big government people who are exploiting the resources of this planet for purposes that, we'll charitably say, are less than ideal. A little bit less, right? This illusion is called Maya. So Prabhupada here defines Maya as hard struggle for existence, or winning over the stringent laws of material nature. Or a short definition, Maya means that which is not. An illusion means it's not real. Prabhupada gave another introductory pamphlet during this time, and it's become the purport to the last verse of the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the 29th verse, the peace formula. One who knows that Krishna is the owner and controller, is the owner of everything, is the supreme enjoyer, and owner, controller, and enjoyer. One who knows that, getting British to get the heck out of India, quit India. They had come in there in the 1750s, 1760s, had been there for nearly 200 years. So much exploitation and just injustice, is unspeakable what they did. So getting the British the heck out of India, everybody was behind that. This is the most important thing, religious ideas and et cetera, that could wait. First we have to do this. All intelligent people thought like this. So Srila Prabhupada, so sincere in that conviction, that he had went to a British-controlled school called Scottish Churches College in Calcutta. Calcutta was the seat of the British rule in Bengal, West Bengal. And a diploma from that university would guarantee him a very good job, influential position, lots of money. He'd gone through everything and graduated with honors. Graduation day, come take your diploma. I renounce it. I do not take. That was what Gandhi was saying. One of the things that boycott everything British. Such a sacrifice. Imagine you do that, you go to college and university, spend all that money, spend all that time, and for conviction and belief in what you think is a more honest and just higher purpose, you renounce that diploma. You know, Srila Prabhupada's father was connected with a very nice gentleman who was in charge of a very early Indian pharmaceutical, which was based kind of on Ayurvedic and natural medicine, not like today, so to speak. So he immediately got a good job. So it wasn't, anyway, that's a side note. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he was so impressed with his presentation of the absolute truth that knowledge of Krishna consciousness, its distribution to every living entity, is so important that not only can it not wait for whatever you consider to be a more favorable political situation, but it has the power to upend and change that undesirable political situation and bring it about to the right position, Krishna's position of how things should be managed. So the illusory struggle against the material nature can at once be stopped by revival of our Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on the mind. So we're not discovering anything new. We're just uncovering that which is already there, but we are not aware of because we've forgotten. And also, we can't see through the clear glass because the glass is covered with dirt. This consciousness is the original energy of the living entity. When we hear the transcendental vibration, this consciousness is revived, and the process is recommended by authorities for this age. So, kirtan, we're doing this very, very traditionally, scientifically. There are many different melodies for chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. They're called raga. Raga means spiritual attraction. But there's a nuance to that definition of spiritual attraction. I like the music, I like the melody. But actually what's really happening is that Krishna, from his side, is becoming attracted to the mellow feeling of love of Godhead that is awakening in us as we associate with these transcendental melodies or ragas. So it's Krishna's spiritual attraction towards us, which creates the sublime pleasure that we're seeking. The nectar, Amrita, for which we're always anxious. That exchange. One place in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says that Krishna is like a diamond, and we, the devotee, are like a beautiful golden band with little jewels enhancing the diamond. Together, they enhance one another, and they glitter and shine together eternally. It's called Krishna Sambandha, relationship with Krishna. By practical experience also, we can perceive, by chanting this Maha Mantra, or the great chanting for deliverance. So, just like $100 is included in $1 million, the problems of repeated birth, death, disease, and old age are automatically included in revival of our original love of Godhead. There was a Beatles song called All You Need Is Love, and one of the devotees, Yamuna Devi Dasi, who was there when they all met George Harrison in London and John Lennon, the Beatles, 1969, 1970, in her biography, that historical account of that time, she titled the chapter, All You Need Is Love of Godhead. All you need is love, love, all together now. Love of Godhead. Deliverance. One can at once feel transcendental ecstasy from the spiritual stratum. When one is factually on the plane of spiritual understanding, surpassing the stages of sense, mind, and intelligence, one is situated on transcendental plane. As chanting Hare Krishna is directly enacted from the spiritual platform, surpassing all lower status of consciousness, namely sensual, mental, and intellectual. And or by focusing yourself on the spiritual platform, the intellectual, mental, and sensual will all be calibrated. How's that for a word? In the most precise and most advantageous way, not only for yourself, but everyone who comes into your association. We glorify the most highly calibrated personality, the spiritual master, the pure devotee. From such a personality, ecstatic prema emanates, and by that diffusion of love of Godhead, like the sunlight, all darkness and ignorance is destroyed. There is no need of understanding the language of the mantra, nor is there any need of mental speculation, nor any intellectual adjustment for chanting the Maha Mantra. It springs automatically from the spiritual platform, and as such, anyone can take part in this transcendental sound vibration without any previous qualification and dance in ecstasy. We're all qualified because we're always part and parcel of Krishna, even in the most degraded position. No one is condemned, thrown, cast into the lake of fire forever and eternally damned. There's no such thing as that. The living entity is never extinguished, is never lost. We have seen it practically. Even a child can take part in the chanting, or even a dog can take part in it. The chanting should be heard from the lips of a pure devotee of the Lord so that immediate effect can be achieved. As far as possible, chanting from the lips of the non-devotee should be avoided, as much as milk touched by the lips of a serpent causes poisonous effect. So many ill-motivated persons presented Bhagavad Gita, but the desired effect was not there. But when one authorized, perfectly well-intended, and authorized personality presented Bhagavad Gita, sincere people came running. And there are many, 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 many. All of us are sincere, ultimately, but some of us are more ripe and ready at this time than others. So the lighthouse should shine, and in that way, those who have lost their way can see the light and come to the right position. The word Hara is the form of addressing the energy of the Lord. Both Krishna and Rama are a form of addressing directly the Lord, and they mean the highest pleasure. Hara is the supreme pleasure potency of the Lord. This potency, when addressed as Hare, helps us to reach the Supreme Lord. The material energy, called as Maya, is also one of the multi-potencies of the Lord, and as such, and as much as we are also marginal potency of the Lord. The living entities are described as superior energy to matter. When the superior energy is in contact with inferior energy, it becomes an incompatible situation. But when the supreme marginal potency is in contact with the spiritual potency, Hara, it becomes the happy, normal condition of the living entity. The three words, namely Hare, Krishna, and Rama, are transcendental seeds of the Maha Mantra, and the chanting is a spiritual call for the Lord and his internal energy. Hara, for giving protection to the conditioned soul. The chanting is exactly like the genuine crying by the child for the mother. Mother Hara helps us in achieving the grace of the Supreme Father, Hari, or Krishna, and the Lord reveals himself to the sincere devotee. No other means, therefore, of spiritualization is as effective in this age as the chanting of the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna. Okay, stop. Any questions or comments?
pretty self-explanatory. So, nobody has any questions? And we'd just like to thank Rama Prabhu again for coming and giving us a talk. Let's give him a big round. So now we're all going to do a little bit of yoga, a little standing yoga. So we're going to stand up and put these away, and we're going to do a little dancing yoga, actually. So stand up, and you can put the mats to the side. I'll teach you a quick dance move, and then Ramraj will lead us into a kirtan.
Like Coke? Maybe I know. It wasn't any good.
It may have been.
Jelly?
Check it.